When we talk about China's ambitions in space, we usually just see the big headlines. But what's really going on behind the scenes is this incredibly detailed, multi-decade roadmap for the moon. It's methodical, it's ambitious, and a lot of it is already happening. So today, we're going to unpack that grand lunar blueprint. And let's just start with what is, without a doubt, the most ambitious piece of the puzzle, the idea of building a nuclear power plant on the moon by 2035. I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But it is a very serious proposal being developed to power a future lunar base through that brutal 2-week-long lunar night. Okay, but before we get carried away with nuclear reactors, let's bring it back to Earth for a second, to the most concrete near-term goal. China has officially stated they plan to land their astronauts, they call them taikonauts, on the lunar surface before 2030. That deadline, it's the engine driving so much of the new tech we're about to get into. So how are they going to pull all this off? Let's break it down. We'll start with their overall strategy. Then we'll look at the amazing robotic missions that are paving the way. After that, we'll cover the hardware they're building to land humans on the moon, the long-term goal of an actual lunar base, and finally, what all this means for this new global race for the moon. So the first thing you have to understand is that none of these missions are random. They're all part of this long-term, very systematic strategy that actually started way back in the early 2000s. It's called the Chinese Lunar Exploration Program, or CLEP, and it's all about a deliberate, step-by-step approach to mastering the moon. The whole program is officially broken down into these 4 phases. Phase 1, master orbiting the moon. Check, they did that. Phase 2, successfully land on the surface. Yep, done, multiple times, even on the far side where no one else has. Phase 3, bring samples back to Earth. Also check, and that puts China deep into Phase 4 right now, building a permanent robotic research station, most likely down at the moon's south pole. Now, the bedrock for all of these future plants, we're talking both robots and humans, is the incredibly successful Chang'e series of missions. Each one of these has systematically leveled up China's capabilities on the moon. I mean, just look at this timeline. They went from a simple orbiter in 2007 to becoming the first and only nation to land on the far side of the moon in 2019. That was a massive technical achievement that needed its own special relay satellite just to talk to the lander. And then they brought samples back from that far side in 2024. This isn't just exploring. This is demonstrating repeatable, increasingly complex technical skill. So what's next? Well, the next major step is the super complex Chang'e 7 mission, which is slated for around 2026. And this mission, it marks a really clear pivot towards the lunar South Pole. That's seen as the most valuable real estate on the moon because of all the potential resources there. And what's so cool about this mission is its laser focus. Chang'e 7 is all about hunting for resources, especially water ice. It's even going to carry this unique hopping probe that's designed to literally fly down into the bottom of those permanently dark craters to look for ice. It's also meant to show off a critical new skill, landing with an accuracy of under 100 meters. You absolutely need that kind of precision if you're ever going to build a base. Okay, so after the water hunter comes the builder. Launching around 2028, the Chang'e 8 mission shifts the entire focus away from just science and prospecting to actual construction and tech demos. This is where the blueprint for a lunar base starts to get very, very real. Chang'e 8 is designed to answer a huge question. Can you actually build things on the moon using materials from the moon? It's going to test something called in situ resource utilization, or ISRU. And the star of the show is an experiment to 3D print bricks using the local lunar soil. That technology, it's seen as the absolute key to building a sustainable, long-term presence. All right, so with the robots busy laying the foundation, let's talk about the people. The plan to get taikonauts on the moon by 2030, well, that requires a whole new generation of spacecraft, and all of it is deep in development right now. And here they are. For the crewed missions, China is developing 2 brand new vehicles. First, you have the Mengshao, which means dream vessel. That's the transport that's going to ferry the crew from Earth to lunar orbit. And then you've got the Lanyue, or Embrace the Moon, which is the dedicated 2-person lander that'll take them from that orbit down to the surface. The whole mission plan is pretty logical, actually, and very similar to how Apollo did it. It's going to take 2 separate launches. The crew capsule and the lander will meet up and dock in orbit around the moon. 2 taikonauts will then crawl over to the lander, head down to the surface for up to 6 days, and then launch the top part of the lander back up to meet the main ship for the ride home. But here's the thing you absolutely have to remember. That 2030 landing, it isn't the final goal. Not even close. It's a huge milestone, for sure. But the real endgame is the construction of a permanent, internationally operated lunar base called the ILRS. And this right here, this gives you a sense of the long-term vision. The International Lunar Research Station, or ILRS, is a massive project being led by China and Russia. The idea is to grow it from a simple robotic outpost, built with those Chang'e landers, into a sprawling complex that can support long-term science and eventually human crews. The roadmap for this base is laid out in two major phases. Phase 1, which they want to complete by 2035, is to get the basic model up and running, a functional robotic science station at the South Pole. Phase 2, looking out to 2050, is the extended model, with a big hub in orbit and multiple outposts on the surface. That's the kind of setup you'd need for even bigger goals, like missions to Mars. This brings us right back to one of the biggest engineering headaches for any permanent settlement on the moon. Solar panels are great, but they're useless during that 2-week-long lunar night, when temperatures just plummet. So, how do you keep the lights on and the heaters running? Well, the proposed solution comes directly from that China-Russia partnership at the heart of the ILRS. The plan is to develop and send up a compact nuclear reactor, one that's designed specifically for space. A nuclear reactor would be a total game changer. It would provide a continuous, really robust power supply, no matter if the sun is out or not. And, as Roscosmos puts it, it's all about enabling long-term uncrewed operations, which is the critical first step you have to take before you can even think about having people live there permanently. Now, we need to be really clear on the status of this particular idea. The nuclear reactor is a serious proposal, and Russia has mentioned a 2035 target for getting it there. It has also popped up in presentations by Chinese space officials, so they're clearly interested. But, and this is a big but, it has not been formally announced as an official, funded part of China's program. For now, it's still in the aspirational category. So, finally, it's really important to remember that none of this is happening in a vacuum. China's methodical lunar blueprint is a huge part of a new global dynamic, a 21st century space race that looks very, very different from the one we saw back in the 1960s. Yeah, unlike the Apollo era, this new competition isn't about just planting a flag and getting home. This is a race for permanence. It's about who can build sustainable infrastructure, who can master using local resources, and who can demonstrate the ability to operate long-term on another world. So as we watch all of these incredible missions unfold, from the robotic builders to the first taikonauts stepping out onto the lunar soil, the ultimate question China's blueprint is trying to answer isn't just can we get there, it's can we stay? And the answer to that question is going to shape humanity's entire future in space.